Buddy? Ooh. 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 Hurry, 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 hurry. Something on the stove cooking, about to burn. Everybody. Folks back in the back, come on in, find a seat. Quit your talking, no fellowshipping, no talking. Hey, back in the back, come on in, find a seat. I love to tell the story of unseen things above, of Jesus and his glory, of Jesus and his love. I love to tell the story, 'cause I know 'tis true. Satisfies my longing, as nothing else can do. I love to tell the story, 'twill be my theme in glory, to tell the old story of Jesus and... All right, everybody find your places, please. I've gone back in my life and chosen some very unusual songs that have affected my life, both positively and negatively. And you never thought when you came to pastor school you'd hear this coming song. But there's other things you never thought you'd hear. You never thought when you came to pastor school you'd go, woo, as you went home either. And so you'll be blessed by this great old song of the faith.
The song, "Do You Ken John Peel," is an old English hunting song, and it has great significance in the musical career of Dr. Jack Hyles. When 10-year-old Jack Hyles was in the Lisbon Elementary School in Dallas, Texas, the school choir was singing, "Do You Ken John Peel?" And the teacher was watching the students as they all sang, and nobody missed a word, and everyone was singing. There was something wrong. Not everyone was The teacher went from student to student listening. This one was not missing a word, and the tones were beautiful. And this one wasn't missing a word, and the song was just fine. And she went from student to student until she came in front of Jack Hyles. And she pulled him to the side and she said, "You know, you get to be in a special group. You get to be in the Lisbon band." And Brother Hyles found out that in the Lisbon band, in this special group, everyone in there, yes, did not get to miss a word, but they were only to mouth the words to all of the songs. Not a tone was to come from the mouth. And so, while you listen to the tender words of "Do You Ken John Peel," I wonder what band Brother Hyles considers himself still in.
Do you know John Peel with his coat so gray? Do you know John Peel at the break of day? Do you know John Peel when he's far, far away with his hounds and his horn in the morning? For the sound of his horn brought me from my bed, and the cry of the hounds which he oft times led. For Peel's view hallo would awaken the dead, or the fox from his lair in the morning. Do you ken John Peel with his coat so gray? He lived at Troutbeck once on a day, but now he has gone far away, far away. We shall ne'er hear his voice in the morning. For the sound of his horn brought me from my bed, and the cry of the hounds which he oft times led. For Peel's view halloo would awaken the dead, or the fox from his lair in the morning.
Let me explain to you a little bit. We were in music class, and Mrs. Thompson, I don't like her. She had us singing the first day this song, Did You Ken John Peel? And so she said, somebody is off. And so she went all over the class, and we sang it. She went over here, and we sang it, and she said, it's not here in this section. Went over here, and we sang it. She said, not in this section. She came where I was. It was in my section. And that was when I first went early in music class, and all the way through grade school, the Lisbon band sat on the front row, and we just moved our mouths. We weren't allowed to say anything, sing anything. The rest of them sang. They were called the Dallas Band. I don't know why they called it a band, but they were called the Dallas Band. They did all the singing, and we in the Lisbon band moved our mouths and didn't sing. And from that moment to this, I have not been very fond of Mrs. Thompson, but overcame it, and as you can tell. And God has given me a beautiful voice, and I give him all the glory. He said he didn't want any of the glory from my voice, but I give him all the glory. The next person I'm going to introduce does not know what I'm going to say. He does not know the story. And I'm sure he's wondering maybe where he fits in, for he represents a church that I seldom mention. I was only there a little less than a year. Had no trouble. Peaceful year. But it was a dark time in my life. It's the Southside Baptist Church of Henderson, Texas. We had a wonder. If you want something, brother, you got a new tie or something you want to show off, or but I'm not sure I remember everything about how this man fits in my life, and I'm going to ask him in a few minutes to fill in the blanks. But I'm have him here because of one day in my life. He doesn't even know. He knows he came to see me. I don't remember it or not, but he does not know what it did for my life. I had a wonderful ministry in Marshall, the Grange Hall. You heard me talk. There's a building out there. You hear me talk about it. Great ministry. 40 preachers and missionaries to this day serve God around the world from that little Grange Hall Baptist Church in Marshall, Texas. I did not know why God moved me to Henderson. I know now. I did not know then. For I would not have left Marshall to go to Garland. I would not have left my thriving church in Marshall to go to 44 people in Garland, Texas. I just wouldn't have done it. If the pulpit had contacted me, I wouldn't have done it. I was in Marshall for my life. One night, a pulpit committee came to Marshall, Texas, and from the First Baptist Church of Harleton, Texas. I told them I wasn't interested. Our church was the talk of the whole area. First Baptist Church, Wascom, Texas, sent a pulpit committee one night to our church. First Baptist Church of Hallsville, Texas, sent a pulpit committee one night to our church. And 7 consecutive Sunday nights, there were different pulpit committees. The last Sunday night, the committee was from Henderson, Texas. I couldn't tell you to this day, humanly speaking, why in the world I went to Henderson, Texas. I don't know. Except I knew I was supposed to go. We did not have a great ministry in Henderson, Texas. I have no stories to tell. Oh, we had some people saved, and we had some growth. I was only there less than a year. Peace? Yes, sir. One of the sweetest people I've ever known. Mr. DiGilio, Ralph DiGilio, led the singing. Mr. Bishop was a deacon. Mr. Roper was an old man. Mr. Roper used to, I guess he must have been 80 at the time. He was our custodian. He cleaned 1 pew a month. And Mr. Roper used to sit with me in the auditorium, and he'd say to me, Brother Jack, everybody used to call me Brother Jack, he said, "You're not going to be here very long." And I said, "Oh, yes, I am. I don't plan to leave." Oh, he said, "Brother Jack," he said, "the day will come and you'll be in some big city church somewhere because you couldn't stay with us." He said, "You'll be in a big city church." I said, "No, sir, I won't." Oh, he said, "Yes, you will." He said, "We love you. We'd like to keep you." But he said, "You won't stay here. God's got something big for you someday." It was a dark era of my life, almost a year. I love the people, but nothing caught on. I've only considered quitting. Now, considered quitting churches, but I've only considered quitting the ministry one time in my life, and that was in Henderson, Texas. The man that you're about to see, had it not been for him, I would not be standing behind this pulpit today. He was a young preacher boy, if I remember correctly, and we'll piece the story together after a while, but he was a student in Hyles in East Texas Baptist College. And I think we took classes together, though I'll have him tell about that. But here's why I had him today. I was all the way to the bottom. We had some people saved, and I remember Mr. Johnson ran a grocery store, got saved, and became he's a well-to-do man. But it wasn't me, and I got discouraged. And then I doubted my call to preach. I never told you this. I never tell anybody this. I hardly ever mention Southside Baptist Church, Henderson, Texas. You've never heard me mention it probably once, twice in all these years. And I decided that I wasn't called to preach. I went to Ralph DiGilio, who was our song leader and a wonderful man. I told him. I went to Mr. Bishop, who was a wonderful young man, and I told him. And they tried to encourage me, but I didn't get encouraged, and I went back to quit. A young preacher boy named C.A. Young came by to see me that day and cheered me. He didn't know, I didn't tell him, but he cheered me and did something for me. And when he left, I said, "I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit." That's why I had him here today. Because he represents a church that was not, I cannot tell you it was a great growing church. He represents a year in my life where I almost quit the ministry, sincerely thought maybe I wasn't called at all. Had it not been for C.A. Young, we would not have this pastor school. There would be no Hyles Anderson College. C.A. Young has been a preacher of the gospel himself for many years, pastors a church, and has been now for many years. I've had him and his wife come just to introduce you to the man, the only man in the whole history of my ministry that ever kept me from quitting the ministry. C.A., come up. Brother C.A., I have a little hard time remembering all the details. You and I were students together, is that right?
One or two classes.
At
Yes.
East Texas Baptist College.
Uh-huh.
Was that our first contact?
I believe so. Yes.
Am I right when I say that you're the one that gave the pulpit lady my name?
Yes.
I hate your insides.
Well, let me tell you, I lost some friends because of that.
This mic needs to be turned on. Attaboy, you lost some friends.
Yes. Do you remember Homer Peden?
Oh,
Charles Peden?
Yeah, they remember as a Grange Hall.
Yes.
And you recommended me to leave that church. You know
And they wouldn't speak to me anymore.
You know that Homer Peden went to the Philippines, and I guess he's still there. I don't know, but he went as a foreign missionary and served as a foreign missionary. Charles Peden, I think, was a preacher too. But anyway, they got mad at you because you took their preacher.
Not only them, but others in the
declare.
college who were going to your church.
I'll declare. And then you recommended me to the pulpit committee. Tell me what you remember about the ministry there in Henderson.
Well, you see, we were always used to a preacher that was very boring, very dull. And when Brother Hyles came in view of a call, he preached to us like he did here the other day, and the old people, they didn't know what to think. And I was overly joyed. I said, Lord, send him. Now listen, Brother Hyles, don't you ever minimize your ministry at Southside. Because listen, I'm going to tell you. We had one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peeling. The church had all run down, you know. Furniture-wise, number-wise, and every way. In the few short months he was there, we were bringing in chairs to seat the people, and we had completely remodeled the building, new pews and all. And he was emptying the First Baptist Church in Henderson. And now wait a minute. Some of the elite who was listening to one of our great denominational pastors, Dr. M.B. Carroll, and they were leaving his church to come to hear Brother Hyles skin them alive. Now listen, we had people saved that never darkened the doors of the church. And it was through the power of God leading this man to preach the Word of God that the men and women of that community were stirred beyond imagination. And I'll never forget it, and people today say, Brother Hyles was just like a puff of wind that came through. He didn't stay long enough. And I'll never forgive the people of Mill Road.
I'm trying to think of the family that I won to Christ. Did you live down the road from the church?
Yes.
There's a family, a couple I won to Christ down there. They're pretty tough people, but I can't think of their names.
Brother Hyles, you won so many on that one street. The Ashbys, some of them were won to Christ.
Yeah, he ran
And
the store.
then the Flanagans, some of them were won to Christ. And the Giltmores.
I'm beginning to feel better about that church.
Well, now, you know, when you were saying that a while ago, I just couldn't believe it. I said, my word, don't minimize your ministry there, because people are still talking about the glory of the church when Brother Hyles was pastor.
I was down in East Texas preaching, and I hadn't been back to Henderson in 40 years or more. And the old Mrs. Ashby, the oldest one,
Yes.
she was pretty old.
Bonnie Bell.
Yeah, lived about two houses in the parsonage there. I drove up, and she was on the front porch. Been 40 years since she'd seen me, and I walked up, and I said, "Could you tell me where the nearest liquor store is?" I said, I need a good drink. And she said, "Brother Hyles."
Now listen, even though she may be old, my sister told her that I was coming here to your church this week. Give him a big hug.
We did have some good times, but I don't know. I was used to things moving faster, and so for the CA, I mean it. I would not be here today if it hadn't been for you.
Bless
Stand
you.
over here, please, if you would. They want to sing to you.
Because of you, I'm here today. You had a part in some small way. Whate'er I am or hope to be, you had a part in making me. You crossed my path one happy day and helped me find God's perfect way. I would not know the joys he hath had you not humbly crossed my path.
I want to know how you met your wife. That story is a little hazy to me.
Well, my wife was from Sweeney, Texas, down on the Golden Gulf. And one day a man said, "I want you to go and preach for me today. I got a place for you." I said, "Okay." And said, "There's a beautiful young girl there that you might like." Well, my qualifications for a wife, she had to be black-headed and she had to play the piano. And when my wife walked across the rostrum and got on the piano and started playing, I said, "That's my wife." But I said, "She doesn't have black hair." And then the thought came, "You can dye it." Well,
Now, was she at Southside when I was there?
no,
I see. Did you go to East Texas Baptist?
no. She went to Corpus Christi University,
I got you.
and she played for Brother Roloff.
That's where I saw her. I knew I'd seen you more than just casually. That's where I saw her. She played the piano for Lester Roloff.
Yes, she played in several revival campaigns for Brother Roloff and traveled with him.
Mrs. Young, would you stand, please? Thanks, C.A.
God bless you.
I love you, buddy. Sometime if you want to have a wonderful, wonderful little trip, maybe a vacation, don't go to the Smokies or the Rockies. Take about a week or two off and just go around to the people that have made you what you are. Boy, I've enjoyed saying thank you to these people. I mean, the people in Henderson didn't say amen, but CA was a breath of fresh air. Or it was a breath of hot air. I've forgotten, one or the other. And I want to talk to you for a while about something very, very important. I want you to listen to me, and I really would like for you not to take notes, but you can if you want to. But I'm gonna hate you if you do. I may hate you anyway. But I'm gonna talk to you a while very seriously about marriage. Don't. Now back to church building. I'm teaching to our preacher boys and all the men of our church who want to come on Saturday nights. I'm teaching on the subject, and boy, this is drawing a crowd, how to handle women. The way I handle mine is sometimes it's like this, and sometimes it's like this, and like this. But I'm not talking about that. So let me just for a while, about 40 minutes, let me talk to your heart, and let me see if I can help you. I said yesterday something that I think is so important, and I believe if every man in this room would get that little 5-minute segment yesterday in your heart, it'd change your marriage. I said that when you took your wife, you took her away from every male, the expression, or the opportunity of every male that's in her life to express their love to her. I'm talking on a regular basis. You took her from her brother or brothers, as I took Mrs. Hyles from her brother. That means that you are to replace the love that he gave to her with a love that a brother has for a sister. That means that that woman sits beside you, that your wife today, you're to love her with every, hear me carefully, with every love that a man can give to a woman. You're to love her as her brother loves her. My sister and I are very close, and I'm going to let you see her sometime during the conference, but she's a lovely lady, and I love her dearly. Now, I'm to love my wife with the love that a brother has for a sister, because she left that love for me. When your wife came with you, she left her father, and his the expression of a father's love. And that means that I am to love my wife, and you're to love your wife with a love that a father has for a daughter. Your wife left her friends. She gave up her brother and her father, her parents, for you. And you should not make her forfeit the quality of love and the type of love that her brother gave her, and that her father gave her, and that her friends gave her. That means that you're to love your wife as a brother would love a sister, as a father would love a daughter, as a friend would love a friend. You heard my wife say a while ago that she left her pastor. And now for 47 years, I'm the only pastor she's had. That means that you're to love your wife with a love that a brother has for a sister, with a love that a father has for a daughter, with a love that a friend has for a friend, with a love that a pastor has for a member. That isn't all. There's another male love, and that's the love that a son has for a mother. You're to love your wife with the same love that a son would have for his mother. And then you're to love your wife as a lover would love a lover. Now listen carefully. One reason some of you fellows have wives that are not very affectionate is because all you want is the last one. You want a lover. I promise you that in 90% of the cases or more, if you would love your wife and could convince her that you love her as her brother, and you love her as her father, and you love her as her friend, and you love her with the love of a pastor, and you love her with the love of a son, in 90% of the cases, she'd run to your arms. All she wants to know is that you want something other than a body. I say to my people very frankly things like this, and I don't say this with any embarrassment at all. A woman needs to feel like there are times when you put your arms around her when that's all you have in mind. A woman needs to feel sometimes if you hold her hand, that's all you have in mind. If you place a kiss on her lips, that's all you have in mind. You're not making a journey anywhere. You've arrived at your destination. I talked last year, and I'm going to just say this quickly and rush on. I taught last year one of the most amazing truths about marriage I've ever found, I've discovered in my life. I suspicioned this, and I checked the Bible, and I found that the Bible says the husband is supposed to love his wife, but it never says the wife is supposed to love her husband. Never does. The only place where it even hints it is in Titus 2:4, where Paul said that Timothy teach the women to love their husbands. Tell the older women, teach the younger women to love their husbands. And that word love is the word phileo, which means affection. At no place in the Bible is the woman commanded to agape or deeply love her husband. But it is commanded in Ephesians when Apostle Paul said, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. That's the word agape. God commands you men to love your wives with a deep, abiding, non-sensuous love. And if you don't love her with a non-sensuous love, you have no right to the sensuous part. Because God's command to you is you give her a love that requires no sensuality. Then he turns to the lady and says, I don't ask you to agape your husband. You smooch him. You love him. Phileo means affection. Because affection from a woman to a man is what, pardon the expression, turns a man on. Agape from a man to a woman is what turns a woman on. Now, if you'll go home with this, please don't snicker while I'm talking about something so sacred. That's one of your problems. You have no sacred feeling towards your wife. Men, and I'll guarantee you there's some people right now agreeing with what I'm saying, and all of them have long hair and have skirts on. Every woman in this room who's married agrees with what I'm saying. Your wife wants the love of a brother for a sister, and the love of a father for a daughter, and the love of a friend for a friend, and the love of a pastor for a member, and the love of a son for a mother, and the love of a lover for a lover. I hope you'll not forget that. Follow me in Ephesians. We won't turn to it, but Ephesians 5:25 through 32. You have the commands of God to the husband and the wife. It's very interesting. There are 2 commands to the wife and 12 to the husband. The 2 commands of the wife, 12 to the husband. Let me give you just quickly what it says. The wife's commands are subjection and submission. That's it. The husband's commands, all these are what the husband's supposed to be. The Bible says the Savior of the body. What does that mean? That means protector. Bible says you're supposed to love your husband. And by the way, it's a word that was never used in the ancient Greek literature. Christianity coined it because there had to be a love that was talked about, the love of God for his people. And this kind of love need not be earned or returned. If you love your wife like God told you to commanded you to love your wife, you will love her if she never kisses you back. Listen to me. You will love her if she never puts her arms around you. When does Jesus love you? When you love him back? No, he always loves you. If you don't love him back, he loves you. Agape. Agape need not be returned. It need not be earned. So there's a difference between the way a Christian is to love a man is to love his wife. It's God's love, and you can only get it from walking with God. Next thing that God says the man is supposed to do is give. Give his life. Willing to die for his wife. Willing for his body to be burned. To give his life by living or by dying. Next thing God says the husband is supposed to do for his wife is sanctify her. The word sanctify means beautify. That means help be beautiful. The word means adorn. Means put pretty clothes on her. Set her on a pedestal. like the word is used like the adorning of the temple. You beautify your wife, and there is nothing will beautify a woman like knowing she's loved. I mean, Mary Kay can't put that on. Avon can call day and night. It'll never put that on. There's the next thing. God said, I want you to be the Savior, to love, to give, to sanctify. Next thing is to cleanse. Bible says cleanse. Husband, what does it mean? I checked that word cleanse. It's the same word used for justification. What is that? God's love for you can see no wrong. You're justified just as you'd never sinned. When you look at your wife and think she's perfect, you're doing what God says to do here. They come to my office, but there's droves telling me what's wrong with their wife. You don't love your wife then. Justification is just as if I'd never sinned. My sins are wiped off the record in heaven, and God sees me blameless in His sight today. That's the way you're supposed to love your wife. There's another word, the word present. Present. That means to set beside, to give her time, to be her best friend. That means you'd rather be with her than anybody else. And the next word he says is to present her glorious church. Glorious. What does that mean? To be glorious. It means held in honor. Held as gorgeous. Then it says without spot or wrinkle. That means when your wife's 66 years old, you don't see her wrinkles. You think I'm without spot or wrinkle? No, but that's the way God looks at me today. If your wife weighs 180 and is 5'1", that ought to be the symbol of beauty for you. You ought to judge all beauty by how close to 180 they are and how near 5'1" they are. I'm going to use an illustration. I better not. No, I shouldn't. I was going to embarrass somebody that's dead, and I don't want to do that. Then it says, without spot or wrinkle and without blemish. That means it's not her fault. She's perfect. Don't tell her faults. Then it says to nourish your wife. That means to feed, to care, provide, make a living, protect. And it's used as God's care for His people, Israel. There's another word man's supposed to be to his wife, and that is cherish. The word cherish is the word warm. As a feather, as a bird covering, an eagle covering its eaglets with its feathers. A nurse caring for a patient. Care for a precious jewel. I say to our young men, I say, look at your wife. Just look at her and realize, treat her like she's a precious jewel or a precious piece of crystal, and make her feel like you're caring for her with that same kind of a care and protection as you'd use to protect a 2-carat diamond. And then it says you're supposed to leave your father and your mother for her. That's interesting. It didn't say the wife's supposed to leave her mother and father. It says the husband is. You know why? Because you men are too tied to your mamas. The word leave there is the word forsake, abandoned, leave behind. And then it says joined, cleave to her. That word cleave is the word for glue or cement. I was down in Baton Rouge the other day, and I asked how Jimmy Swaggart was doing. Somebody told me. And somebody told me that a preacher's wife that I know, and I wouldn't embarrass her for the world, older woman, said she called Mrs. Swaggart and said to Mrs. Swaggart, it's your fault your husband did what he did. That's the biggest lie that ever came out of the pits of hell. I don't care if your wife is made of icicles and lives in the cooler. Jimmy Swaggart didn't have a right to do what he did. Now you listen to me. Dr. Robertson says everything rises and falls on leadership. That means your marriage too. Now follow me carefully. I'm almost going to read this, and I don't want you to miss a word. God's plan is that in every organization somebody has to be in charge. Please don't miss it. The next 15 minutes can save your marriage or preserve your marriage or make it 10 times happier. God's plan is that somebody is in charge of every organization. Every city needs a mayor. Every state needs a governor. Every country needs a president or a king. Every team needs a coach. Every church needs a pastor. That's God's plan. Now, number 2, each must be chosen by human beings. Hear the statement. Each of these leaders must be chosen by human beings asking to be led of God. In other words, God is supposed to choose the leader and lead human choosers to choose the right one. The city chooses a mayor, who in turn leads the city. The state chooses a governor, who in turn leads the state. The nation chooses a president, who in turn leads the nation. The woman chooses a husband, who in turn leads her. But you wouldn't have gotten her if she hadn't decided to say yes. Number 3, now this authority is called human government. It is God's plan that followers choose leaders as God directs them, and those leaders chosen by God as He directs followers are supposed to lead the followers that chose them. This is called human government. Now listen carefully. Number 4, its purpose is threefold. Human government's purpose is threefold. Number 1, protect the person. Number 2, protect the property. Number 3, protect the freedom. That's the only thing that the government of the United States is supposed to do for me. They're not supposed to feed me while I sit home and watch the box. They're not supposed to give money so whores can have illegitimate children. The job of the government is threefold. Protect my person, protect my property, and protect my freedom, and that's it. There was a day when we lived in the rural areas and each man protected his own person. Each man protected his own property. Each man protected his own freedom. He had his own gun. He was his own police department. He was his own fire department. We moved to town and we started having communals. They call them cities, but they're nothing more than a touch of communism. And we'd have communals. And so we chose some men to protect us. And what we chose them to protect was the same thing we used to protect, but now we can't because we have urban life. And so we chose some people from us to protect our person, to protect our property, and to protect our freedom. And that's all. Wait a minute. That means my job is to protect the person of Beverly Hyles. My job is to protect the property of Beverly Hyles. And my job is to protect the liberty and freedom of Beverly Hyles. That's my job. And that's your job. Your wife chose to marry you, and she chose you to be her leader, like a city chooses a mayor, like a team chooses a captain, like a state chooses a governor. Your wife chose you to be her government. And your job is to protect her person, her property, and her freedom. Number 5. Now this authority is given by the follower to the leader. I'm the leader of First Baptist Church Hammond. Make no bones about it. I'm the leader. But I was chosen to be the leader. Now if they don't want me to be the leader, all they got to do is tell me. But while I'm here, I'm going to lead the church. I'm not going to be a dictator, but you're not going to be able to tell much difference. Now, I tell my people, if you don't want that, I've got a car and there are roads that lead all over this country. And I'll just retire, take my Social Security, go to Florida, get some Bermuda shorts and play shuffleboard and watch my wife's varicose veins get bigger. I will not force my leadership. And if some of you rascals would quit going home and forcing your leadership, then you might be a man someday, but you can't be a man unless you force your wife to follow you, and it never has been God's plan. It's the follower who chooses the leader to be the leader. The country chooses its president, the state chooses its governor, the church chooses its pastor, and the wife chooses her husband. Instruction in the Bible is always first to the followers. Before God told you to love your wife, he told her to be in subjection to you. Before God told masters to be fair to their employees, he told the employees to be subject and obey their masters. Before God told the fathers to rear their children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, he told the children to obey their parents in the Lord. The first order of obedience is to the follower, and if the follower won't follow, you're not supposed to force your leadership. That's hierarchy. Number 6, so the leader, and that's what I just said, so the leader is not to force his authority. Men, what we need in America is some men. Some fellows who are not, I don't care how big your stupid bicep is, your arm may be like a broom and your bicep like a grape, but brother, if you can be a man, if you can convince the followers that you can handle a situation without forcing yourself upon them. The leader is not to force his authority. And number 7, simply to be prepared to lead, not prepared to force. Next number. You are not to be cared for as a leader. You are to care. God didn't give you a wife to guarantee your protection of your person. God didn't give you a wife to protect your property. And God didn't give you a wife to protect your liberty. God gave you to her because God led her to choose you. And it's your job to care and not be cared for. And the same is true with this church. It's not my church's job to spoil me. It's my job to spoil them. Some of you preachers go home and expect your people to spoil you rotten. Let me tell you, if you have $1 my people give to me, I give them $100. My job as pastor of this church to care, not be cared for. Church is not made to serve me. I'm made to serve the church. Next number, keep before yourself your purpose. Don't ever lose sight of your purpose as a husband. Well, you ladies are enjoying this, aren't you? Now listen, don't ever lose sight. Your job, listen to me, your job is to protect that precious body of that woman. Your job is to protect the property of that woman and protect the freedom of that woman if she so chooses to obey God and allow you to do so. Next number. So I will not force my leadership on my wife or my church. I never use Hebrews, 10:7, 17, is that it? Yeah, I never use that. Be in subjection to your spiritual leaders. I never use it. I never say to my people, God commands you to follow me. I never say that. Brother, I don't want my folks to follow me because they're commanded to. I want my folks to follow me because they feel safe when I'm up here. Some of you guys couldn't lead a starving horse to drink if the water was jumping up to his mouth. You sit there and say, horse, you're supposed to obey me. You're supposed to obey me. You all shut up. Milk toast. Mr. Rogers. America's dying because, hey, listen, the average woman would be led if she had confidence she had somebody who knew how to lead. You give your life. You love her like you're supposed to love her. Like a brother loves a sister. Like a father loves a daughter. Like a friend loves a friend. Like a pastor loves a member. Like a son loves a mother. And like a lover loves a lover. She may elect you to office someday and elect you to be her protector. I will not force my leadership. Next number. When given it by followers, I will submit myself then to them. Ephesians 5:21, submitting yourselves one to another. I want you to follow me very, very carefully for the next 4 sentences. Here's the way it's supposed to be. A leader submits to the follower's choosing. Wake up. Wake up! Your wife would like to have a husband that has enough character to stay awake in church too. We say, how can I stay awake? Be a man. You might like it. Number 1, the leader submits himself to the follower's choosing, like a politician on election day. He submits himself to being chosen by the follower, like a team votes for the captain, like a city votes for the mayor, like a wife says yes to the husband. 1, the leader submits himself to the follower's choosing. Number 2, then the follower submits to the authority he gave the leader. I hope some of you fellows got enough sense to follow me. Know what I'm saying? Number 3, the leader then submits to the opinion of the follower. Number 4, the follower then submits to the decision of the leader. Those are the 4 steps. I asked my wife to marry me. I waited for her decision. She chose me. In turn, because she chose me, she is to submit herself to my leadership. When she submits herself to my leadership, that gives me the freedom to submit myself to her opinion. Then I can consider her opinion, and then she can submit to me for the final decision. That decision may be hers. It may be mine. But if she submit, and ladies, if you will submit yourself to your husband, you're giving him the privilege to submit himself to you for your opinion and discuss the issue. And then fellas, you're not being a henpecked mealy mouth because you sometimes do what your wife thinks is best. I'll read it again. First, the leader submits himself to the follower's choosing. 2, the follower then submits himself to the authority he gave the leader. 3, the leader then submits himself to the opinion of the follower. 4, the follower then submits himself to the decision of the leader. You ask there are many things that I suggested for pastor school we've not done. Because my staff will do what I say. You say, yeah, you make them. No, I don't. But when they decide to be my followers, and some of you assistant pastors ought to listen to this, when they decide to submit themselves to my decision, that gives me the freedom to get their opinion. Once I get their opinion, and I have the final decision, I have the choice. I can choose my opinion or their opinion. I'll guarantee you there are dozens of things I've suggested for pastor schools that my staff thought was not best that we did not do. But in any case, if I had said this is what we ought to do, they'd have said that's what we want to do. Number 10, or the next number, the leader then is at liberty to follow or not to follow the advice of the follower. Next number, the leader must constantly be reminded of his purpose. I must at least once a week be reminded of my purpose. My purpose as a husband is to protect my wife's person, protect her property, don't leave me now, and protect her freedom. Next number, listen to this. So she is my property to protect. Christ loved the church and bought it, Acts 20:28, with his own blood. That means the church is his property. And the Bible says that I'm to love my wife like Christ loved the church. That means she's my property. Anybody's got any sense takes good care of his property. Next number, property is cherished. I don't get a stick and hit the fender of my car. You sorry thing, you won't run. What? It's my property. I don't hurt my property. I treasure my property. I care for my property. When Jesus bought us, he bought us as his own property, and he loves us because we're his. And when you married that woman, she became your property. And you're supposed to cherish her and love her and protect her like you would cherish a $50,000 piece of jewelry. Next number. It is sad to see a woman not protected. There's nothing to me as sad as a widow. She has lost her government. She's a country without a president, city without a mayor, team without a coach. It is sad to see a widow. It's also sad to see an abandoned wife. A woman not protected. Next number. It is sadder to see a woman never protected. My sister is not married, but my sister knows and feels the protection her brother gives her. It is even sadder, get this now, it is sad to see a woman not protected, such as a widow or an abandoned woman. It is sadder to see a woman never is protected. It is even sadder to see a woman who needs protecting from her protector. You sorry devil. You good-for-nothing slime. You who would lift your hand to do harm to that little woman that's your wife. You sorry scum. I said it's sad to see a woman who's not protected. It's sadder to see a woman never protected. And it's even sadder to see a woman that must be protected from her protector. Men should fill the void of other women in his family who are unprotected. His mother, his sister, his daughters, and so forth, if they're unprotected. Now, to be practical. Number one, man is to delegate authority given to him by his follower. Number two, I am to protect her physically. I'm not to force her to need protection from me. I'm to offer my protection, and you're to offer your protection to your wife to protect her physically. You are to protect her emotionally. You are to protect her spiritually. You're to protect her from financial worry. Some of you Arnold Schwarzenegger fellows. You go to work in the morning. Your wife goes to work in the morning. You come home in the evening, plop down, read the paper, watch the box, and wait for her to cook and wash dishes and wash and iron and clean house and take care of the kids so you can nag at her because she's not what you need. Now you listen carefully to me. You were not chosen for what you need. You were chosen to care for her. You say, wait a minute, I thought the woman is supposed to be the helpmate. Yeah, she's supposed to be the helpmate. She's supposed to get you and encourage you. Encourage you to be what God chose you to be and do what God chose you to do. I am not to expect from her, listen carefully, I'm going to make a statement now. Oh, my soul. I am not to expect from her what I give to her. Here's a statement. Some of you guys are emotional queers. You want your woman to be different from you physically so she can love you, but the same as you are emotionally. But she's as different from you emotionally as she is physically. And you ought to viva the difference in both areas. You want a woman with a physical body who's as stable as your buddies are at the shop. But women aren't that way. If you say to your wife, I love you, that's for good. You need not say it again. Your wife can tell you she loves you and 10 minutes later tells you she hates you and mean it both times. Now, she's not the same in person emotionally you are. Please don't think I'm being irreverent now. I wish I was just talking to men, but I've got to tell you this. A woman has a cycle. We only think of 1 5-day period of that as being a cycle. But that woman's body is changing just as much 15 days from that 5 days as it is during that 5 days. It's like the cycle on a washing machine. And that's one reason why she changes. And that's one reason why her emotions sometimes are not as steady as yours are. I must realize our differences. A man gets mad and gets over it. A man wants to talk it out and the woman wants to whitewash it. Man forgets, the woman remembers. Man romances from the outside to the heart, woman romances from the heart to the outside. Now, if you'll never forget the fact of your purpose as a husband, to protect her person, to protect her property, and to protect her freedom. And if you'll realize that you are an elected official, except you're chosen for life, and you have been chosen by your follower to office, and it is your job to protect her person, her property, and her freedom. 2 things, and I'll close, and they're both repetitious. If number one, if you will, in your marriage or any other relationship, if you'll stick that mortar of friendship between every brick of marriage, friendship will hold up. Friendship, this is a good statement. Friendship is the strongest human relationship. Friendship is stronger than mother-father, mother-son, father-son, mother-daughter. Friendship is stronger than husband-wife. Friendship is not a relationship. Friendship is a quality that holds relationships together. You go home, become friends. And then you go home and you decide you're going to love that woman with the love that she lost from her brother, with the love that she lost from her father, with the love that she lost from her friends, with the love that she lost from her pastor, with the love that she needs from a son, and then with a love for a lover, for a lover. And I'll promise you 90% of the time, she'll respond if she knows that all you want is not just the last one. Marriage is not a bargain made between 2 people. It is a promise by one person made to another. It's unconditional promise. That's the way Jesus loves me. He loves me when I shout. He loves me when I pout. He loves me when I'm close to him. He loves me when I'm far from him. His love for me is not dependent that much on my love for him. You could have your whole life changed. And by the way, when you feel that way for your wife, you'll be surprised what kind of pastor you'll become. I stand up here behind this pulpit and I appear to be the meanest thing since Adolf Hitler. But you ask my members. You ask my members. There's not a person that sits in these pews, but what if he's honest, will say, that man up there loves me. And that man is there for my protection, my care. That's what he's there for. My people this week. See, my people don't see me around the country. When I come to the pulpit here, I don't get a standing ovation. I get a few yawns. One lady in the choir says, that's my preacher. And that's the way I like it. I'm home. I like that. But my people see me here, and they see me up here, and they see me as I am across the country all the time. And they're so proud of me. They didn't know I could do this. Why? I'm theirs. I belong to them. They chose me 35 and a half years ago. They elected me to give them protection and the love that Christ gave the church. You go home with that kind of love that I've talked about today, fellas, for your wife and for your church. I'll promise you in 90% of the cases, it'll revolutionize your marriage and it'll revolutionize your church. And it'll make you buy more books when I sell them. Quickly, I'm not going to take long now, but and many of you have these books already I'm going to offer today, but I'm going to offer them real quickly. I promise you we won't be here more than 10 more minutes. I promise you that, so please do not leave. Look at me. Enemies of soul winning. I am against anything that hurts soul winning. And that's why I am against hyper-Calvinism. That's why I'm against lordship salvation, ultra-dispensationalism, formal worship, misunderstood repentance. Dr. Robertson mentioned last night repentance and did it well. What he was saying was change your mind and trust the Savior. The universal church, enemy of soul winning. The modern tongues movement, enemy of soul winning. And then the article I wrote in defense of Dr. Bob Gray. I'm always having to defend him. He's always in trouble. And I'm glad to do it. Somebody wrote an article against him, and I'm sure a little bit against me and I wrote back, where are the nine? Where are the nine? And then my chapter on Let's Be Baptist is very vital. This book, Enemies of Soul Winning, is $9. You ought to have it. Everybody ought to have it. All I do here is say anything that's against soul winning, I'm against it. Then, $11.95 usually, so the Lord publishes this. We're selling it for $11. But, and by the way, we have no sales here all week, so we won't come at the end of the week and you say, oh boy, we should have waited. Hyles Church Manual. Every preacher ought to have it in his library. It's $11. That's all I'll say about it. And then likewise, its twin book, the Hyles Sunday School Manual, which is $9.95 but $9, all about Sunday school building, publicizing the Sunday school, special classes, teacher and officers meeting, weekday duties of the teacher, building and equipment, presentation of the lesson, Sunday morning schedule, and so forth and so on. It's $9. And then a little triplet book, the Hyles Visitation Manual, is $7. And then on cassette, 5 studies on marriage, $15. 1, the I do's and I don'ts. 2, what I just taught a while ago a little bit, to love, phileo or agape. 3, all things for each other. 4, keeping the mystique in marriage. 5, friendship, the greater love. Let me tell you one thing. Look at me. When I leave the bedroom every morning, I'm dressed like you see me except without a coat. There's too much casual sloppiness. I often say to my people, when Sarah called Abraham Lord, he wasn't laying on the sofa with his shorts and undershirt on with his navel sticking out in between. watching the Bulls play the Celtics. There ought to be a mystique in marriage. And okay, fellas, if you'll take your places, get these tapes on marriage. You ought to do it. And by the way, you need to get either audio or video one what I just taught, and go home and teach it to your people. If you want one of the books or so, would you raise your hand? We'll be on our way in about 5 minutes. While they're doing that, would you listen to me carefully? It's a very important announcement. Listen. The city police are ticketing all cars parked within 10 feet of the railroad tracks. It's the way the Hammond police like to spread public relations around America about Hammond. And they ought to have their heads examined. What an opportunity to put a little sticker on there and say, you're parked, dear friend, welcome to Hammond. You parked too close to the tracks. Would you be careful about it? Hope your memory of Hammond's a pleasant one. They give you a ticket and so forth, which is dumb. And the police chief will have a contact. It's dumb. It's just dumb. But you give me the ticket. You put the ticket up here on the pulpit. If you get a ticket, you put it on the pulpit, and I'll take care of it. I'll care for it. I mean that. You're not going to pay for a ticket because you park close. If you park too close to the train, you'll know it. Your car will be in Chicago. You know what America needs? Every time I go anywhere, I took my wife to a flower show the other day. Oh, that's a blessed thing to do. And I said, they need to come to pastor school. Learn how to run stuff. And that's what the police department needs to do. What an opportunity. People are here from 47 states. And I was going to read it to you. 47 states we know about. And they're here from Canada, Mexico, Africa, Germany, Philippines, Australia, England, India, and Korea. And what an opportunity for Hammond, Indiana to get a good name with the world. And what do? Stick a dumb ticket on your car because you parked too close to the railroad tracks. Makes me want to get an old car and stick it on the tracks out there. Is anybody here from Hawaii? Holler at me. Anybody here from Idaho? Holler at me. Anybody here from Utah? Holler at me. Okay, we have 47 states. Any other foreign countries other than Canada, Mexico, Africa, Germany, Philippines, Australia, England, India, and Korea? What? Pakistan? All right, that's 10. Any others? Where? Barbados. Good. That's 11. Oh, come on. Oh, the sad thing about the guy is serious. That's what's sad. There are 11 foreign countries. May I give you the 10 top states? Number 1, North Carolina. Number 2, Michigan. Number 3, Florida. Number 4, Pennsylvania. Number 5, Illinois. Number 6, Ohio. Number 7, New York. Number 8, California. Number 9, Colorado. Number 10, Texas. Now, I didn't count Indiana because, of course, we have thousands of folks here in Indiana, but these are the 10 top states. But I do want to say a word about 3 other states that had 90 or over. West Virginia had 99. All in with 2 pair of shoes to share. Tennessee had 97. And Wisconsin had 90. Anything else we're supposed to do, fellas? Is that all? Is that all we're supposed to do? You all finished? Okay, you can go back at the back. Thank you very much. We're not going to pass out the envelopes right now because of time. Service starts 6:45. You got almost 2 hours. The book places are open and the restaurants are open 6:45.